Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Cricket Podcast. I'm Nick, as ever, joined by Azza, who's looking particularly smug this week after the result that just happened at the Oval.
Rightly so. We turned it around.
Yeah, that was. You know what? I'm gonna try to be a bigger person and say, cricket won. It went to day five. The weather was nice. Sun was out. The crowd was out.
Yeah,
but I can't be the bigger person because I lost the
yeah.
fantasy stakes as well, and that kind of sucks. So I have no win to my
You
name
lost,
this week.
so
I
that's
didn't
right.
just
You
lose; I
That
think
gives
I
the
came
viewers,
bottom of our league.
yeah. So that gives the viewers some perspective. We both made two teams each, a bankable and risky team, and I finished top two. You finished bottom two.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second week in a row where you've made money and I haven't, which is why a lot of
Yeah,
our teams that we end up making end up being your teams. I do
true.
expect a check from you some point in the future to reimburse me for the mental trauma that you've caused me. Uh, But it's been tough. It's been tough for fantasy cricket. It's been tough. We're hearing news from the Indian camp. We hope people are safe. We hope this match goes ahead. It would
Yeah,
be a
it's
shame if the series ended
they've canceled the practice
abruptly.
session as well.
Yep,
So
yep. Um, well, they've cancelled the practice session at the ground. That ground being Old Trafford. Uh,
yeah,
I've been to the football one. I have not been to the cricket one, funnily enough. But let's
yeah.
let's jump into it. As we always mention, the number one thing, really, when you look at before you think about players, you have to think about the ground, the conditions,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in Test cricket. Um,
Yep.
Let me quickly just throw some numbers at you. We're going to try to avoid numbers this episode. We don't want to overload viewers, but just quickly, out of the last in the last 5 years of Test cricket at this ground, there have been 20 innings in which six scores have been over 300. So I think that's important to note. Uh, and then the last match at this ground, which ended on the 3rd of September, so very recently, saw the match being drawn with two scores over 300, big scores, and eight wickets going to leg spin as well
Yeah.
in that situation.
So
So,
that explains
food for
why
thought.
Jack Leach has been brought into the English squad. Sorry, no guarantees if R. Ashwin will play again. We're not going to make the mistake on this podcast to say you guys should select him. Let's just treat R. Ashwin as a bystander for the series for the moment.
Well, it's Ashwin's an interesting character because he's always been known as a world class great player, but now it's almost a question of as a fantasy player you miss him. You miss him because he feels like there's so many points he's going to get you, and when we
Yeah,
start doing our IPL episodes in a few weeks' time, we're going to be picking him. We're Delhi Capitals fans. We're T20
exactly.
fans. We know how important he is for that team. He would normally be a safe pick. Now, he's not going to be a safe pick at the moment, as far as we're concerned,
Yeah,
given his lack of selection. Give me a safe pick. And when I say safe pick, as I think we're looking at, we're gonna break it down to a couple of picks that we
yeah,
think
yeah,
of players we're gonna captain. So
yeah.
when we say
So
safe pick, we're gonna captain these players potentially. What are yours?
exactly. So we're looking at giving advice to players who have multiple teams. If you have multiple teams, you want to have these players in as many teams as you can fit them into. England, no brainer really, isn't it? It's Joe Root. Nothing much to say. He didn't get as many as he did in the last match. Well, it's all Root's fault, isn't it, that they lost?
Yeah,
Let's just put it all on
exactly.
Root. Yeah, and for India, it has to be Jasprit Bumrah, whose heroics in that second innings. Some say that's what got them the win. I don't know about that, but yeah, it has to be Bumrah. He's very consistent. He doesn't look tired yet. He's played four matches on the trot. Doesn't look like he's tiring. So yeah, those are the two big picks from each team for us.
Yep, I think that's a safe bet. I can't disagree with you there at
Yeah,
all. I think you're right. Joe Root maybe slipped a bit. Bumrah has not. Bumrah has not looked like he's even going to miss a step, apart
yep.
from the usual no balls that he chucks in here and there. Uh, okay, we're going to go now on to the risky but likely players.
Yeah,
Now that's sort of our. We want to take a bit of a risk on a second team, but we want it not to be too big a risk because we don't want to put in
of
too
course.
much money or
Yeah.
embarrass ourselves in front of our friends. What are your names there?
With risky but likely, we always want to go for people with all-round potential, wicket
Yep,
keepers, all-rounders. In this case, for England, Chris Woakes looked in very good touch. He's always going to be threatening in English conditions,
true.
and even more so to Indian batsmen who don't do as well against in those conditions. So Chris Woakes, he batted well as well. And then from India, probably Shardul Thakur has to be the big pick. Uh, Not much to say. If you watched the last match, Thakur did most of the talking.
I agree. I mean, I could see situations where in the last match, if you'd captained Wokes or Tucker, you would have been potentially in the winning zone of some of the
Yeah,
contests. You would have
yeah,
been beating your friends for sure. So
yeah,
that's really important. Let alone
yeah.
picking these guys, captaining these guys could be huge.
Yeah,
Um,
so quickly, what would have led someone to pick or captain one of these guys is making a very risky team, like a wild card pick. So coming into the next match, what can a player do to sort of win some of those big matches? Do you have any ideas, Nick?
yeah, I mean, here is sort of the ultimate risk.
Yeah,
The Hail Mary wild card pick is going to be. There's two of them for me actually.
yeah,
Ajinkya Rahane has to score. He's too good a player not to score runs. I want to
yeah,
captain him in one of my teams just to see how that pans out because I think he's got it in him.
yeah,
He's looked tidy in moments throughout this series. And then really Joss Butler. His family have just welcomed a second child. He's playing at what is now his adopted home ground. He knows that he gets drafted right back in. There's not much pressure. This is the last test, and then he can go back to whacking the ball in the IPL and T20 World Cup. I think captain Joss Butler as well in one of your teams. Strike
yeah.
rate's
That's fair
high,
enough.
boundaries are going to be there. And against Indian bowlers who've been bowling 5 tests, they may be tired. Conditions might work out, and he can just tonk the ball around. So
Yeah,
I've got a team for sure with Joss Butler as captain.
he's
It's a risk.
and he's a wicket keeper as well, so
He's
it
getting you
helps.
catches. He's getting you
Yeah,
stumpings. If Leach potentially plays, if
yeah,
Moeen continues, lots of points to be had. I reckon Joss Butler is a worthy captain.
true. Good call. Yeah. Anyone you're dropping then, Nick?
So before we address dropping Azza, I think we've kind of discussed two Indian and two England players that we would maybe use to fill in around these sort of various
Yeah,
squads that we're building. Maybe players
yeah.
that might be fillers but consistent throughout. So I want you to give me the two India players that you have in
Yeah.
mind.
So look, fantasy cricket, like real cricket, is very much a momentum game. It's about players finding form, gradually building up in series and competitions, and then giving you the big points, culminating in a crescendo of sorts. And it looks like there's a few batsmen, especially, who have been finding good form, especially from the Indian side. Kohli, he's looked imperious. He's played those cover drives. It doesn't look like he's doing much wrong. He's just getting out. So Kohli looks good. Pujara looks really good. He looks more aggressive than usual, and that's what's giving us those fantasy points if you're picking him in one of your teams. So certainly go for him. In both bankable and risky teams, he's a good pick.
Yep.
Both of them are actually. And then, of course, from England, Ollie Pope looked really good in that first innings. Hasib Hamid has had a good summer so far. He's had a few 50 plus scores, 100 earlier on. So those would be probably the players I would want to sort of center my teams around.
Yep, I think that's a good shout. I
Yeah,
think particularly Ollie Pope was impressive last game. Hamid
yeah,
is grinding out those runs. So if you're taking a risk and captaining a Joss Butler, then pick a Hamid because chances are Hamid will grind his way. It may not be pretty, but he'll grind his way to 50, 60.
yeah,
At least you're getting some points there for sure, and then your
exactly.
your punt might work off.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Your
Lastly,
punt also
Azza,
might work off, but that's
yeah, your
another
punt might
discussion.
work off as well.
Yeah,
One player who I don't think is going to work off.
yeah,
Work off, is that even a phrase? It is
work
now.
out.
What? Workouts, that's the one, right?
Yeah,
It's a good thing I work in an industry that involves command over the English language.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna say drop Ollie Robinson. I
yeah.
don't really. He looked jagged. He looked tired. There's a shout that the same thing could be said for Anderson, but this is Jimmy Anderson bowling from the Jimmy Anderson end at his home ground. Last test of the summer, he's going to put his boots up because he doesn't play much cricket other than test cricket. So I don't want to write him off. But Ollie Robinson looked tired.
He looked
Um,
tired. Yeah.
he may even be dropped from the team, and hopefully he doesn't tweet his feelings or emotions because we know how that's worked out in the past. Uh, let's. I don't know. I don't know if you agree. That's my suggestion
I
to
think
fantasy
so.
players.
Look, even if you're making 20 fantasy teams, each of your teams has to be very well thought out. Every one of those 11 players in your team has to offer points. And is Ollie Robinson going to be offering points more often than not? He looked very off color. He was bowling in the low 120s in a lot of in that
Yep,
second inning. So yeah, I agree
look
with you completely.
looked insipid.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Redeemed your command of language there.
yeah. No. That's great. Words are coming back to me now.
Yeah,
Um, I think we've wrapped it up pretty well. We've
yeah.
given viewers and listeners options for different teams. We understand that you're going to make multiple teams. Any final thoughts? Any closing thoughts?
Look, if the match goes ahead, I'm very excited to watch the match. So I hope it does go ahead. And if it does, it looks like India is riding on a big momentum right now.
Yep,
England looked a bit flat towards the end of that
yep,
match. Um, so yeah, I think pick more Indian players because it seems like that team has a lot of positive vibes at the moment. So they might
yep.
give you more points.
Yeah, I agree, and I think as on that note, we're trying to do shorter episodes so that
Yeah.
we don't overload our viewers and listeners. Um, Still lasted longer than the England batting lineup, but that's not difficult. We're gonna touch base next week. Start
Yeah,
getting out
IPL's around the
content for the
corner.
IPL. We're excited for the IPL.
Very
So
excited.
any early predictions? Nah, forget it. I'm not gonna pull you into an IPL
Look,
discussion now.
the Delhi Capitals are going to win it. That's
I
what I'm
hope
going to say.
so. I hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's what we both hope.
Ye hai Delhi. There you go. There's my Hindi
Is
for
that
the
yeah,
year
nahi
done.
Delhi? That's the
Ye hai
line.
nahi Delhi. Right, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
My
That's the
Hindi's
first Hindi
improving.
we said.
I know,
Yeah,
it's
it's all right.
improving as well, right? I'm getting
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
You can't
All
teach a
right.
Farang new tricks.
Old Farang, new trick.
Not that old yet, Azza. Calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah. All right, Nick. Let's
Cheers,
wrap up.
Azza. Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks, viewers. Thanks, listeners.
thanks.
We'll catch you on the next episode. Good luck. Hope you win big. Take
Yeah,
care.
thanks.